Jeffrey, Erev Tov, how are you? Dr. Les, how are you, Dr.
Shalom,
Les?
Rav. How are you? How are you, Rav?
Baruch Hashem. Jeffrey, Dr. Les, 1 second. Jeffrey, I tried to call you to prepare your Sefer Vayikra. I need you to prepare your book of Vayikra. You're going to read for us. Parashat Shmini, chapter 11. Okay? Chapter 11.
Parashat Shmini.
Yeah. I need
Okay.
you to look at Sefer Vayikra,
Yep.
chapter 11, okay? Prepare it, verse 10. While
Yep.
Dr. Lee is going to update us with all the news in Eretz Israel.
Okay.
Bechavod, Dr. Lee.
Okay, so Rav, wow, we had a very interesting morning. On Friday, I was asked to come to Renana, to travel to Renana to record a Tell Fed and Truth Be Told event, protesting against the blood libel, genocide blood libel by the South African government. It was South Africans, it was in Renana. And when I left Jerusalem, it was pouring. I didn't think we were going to have the event because the clouds just opened up and it was actually quite dangerous driving. But as I got into Renana, the sun started to shine. And by 9:45, it was very sunny. So we had this event. It was Ephraim Zuroff, who's a world-renowned Nazi hunter, and we had Ruth Wasserman-Linde, who's a member of the Knesset, with Dave Kaplan and Rolene Marks. It was very special. We had Clive Chitters, whose son fell, so he spoke as well as Meisha Isaacson and Richard Shavetzion. So I videoed the event and it was incredibly special. It was amazing. And I've uploaded it to the Facebook. There are now about over 700 views and it's gone all over. And it's been was an incredibly special event. And one thing that I took from the event, I thought to myself, it's unbelievable. And this is only afterwards when I was driving home. South Africa, Naledi Pandor phoned the Hamas leaders 2 days after the massacre. Most probably to congratulate. And then a few weeks later, they invited Hamas to Joburg. So South Africa has a direct connection with Hamas, with the leadership. Now there are South African hostages, Jewish South African hostages in Gaza, and the South African government has done absolutely zero, nothing to actually ask about the welfare of South African citizens like Doron and Shelley Peretz. Their son is one of the hostages. They've done absolutely nothing to help, assist, or even inquire about fellow South Africans that are being held hostage by the Hamas in Gaza, even though they have this close association. There were other South Africans from the area and areas that were also held hostage. There were South Africans that have been killed. And we know Clive and Debbie Chitters, their son, fell. And this afternoon, I saw Leah Bromovitz. She's in her late 80s. She started Milabev. She's a patient of mine. And her grandson, Eyal Meir Berkowitz, he fell on the first night of Hanukkah. And I asked if I could just video her, which I've uploaded. So she said that, he tried for 4 years to get into medical school. Eventually, he was accepted. It was in his first year. He was married, and unfortunately, he fell in battle. And his Leia actually escaped Nazi Germany in 1939. So it's just unbelievable that, and her husband, South African. So there are many South Africans that have either fallen or are held captive, and the South African government has done absolutely nothing to even inquire about South African citizens or South African.
So you're coming in afternoon to finish off?
Yeah, I'll come after my hair for you.
1 second. I'm going to mute.
Okay, see you later. See you tomorrow.
Dr. Liz, you can continue.
Okay, so it's actually quite, it's a tragedy. And I think this should be brought out because it's outrageous that you have a country that cares less than nothing about their own citizens just because they're Jewish. It smacks of the highest degree of anti-Semitism, of hatred towards the Jewish population and the Jewish community. And I think it's an outrage. It's just unbelievable. But Trav, even more amazing and more unbelievable, UNRWA, which they found that quite a few of, they say at least 10% of all their workers, maybe much more, are active Hamas or Islamic Jihad members. And they found that there were more than 12 that were actively involved in the massacre on Simchas Torah on the 7th of October. Now, they have been nominated. You will not believe this. You're going to be speaking about mermaids, which you don't, it's hard to believe that such a thing exists. But it's hard to believe that they have been nominated for a Nobel Prize, Peace Prize. This organization, in which they say most probably 50 or maybe more % of all its members are members of this terrorist organization that wants to annihilate the Jews, and their own members were found to be part of the massacre that perpetrated this massacre, this genocide, and they be nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Can you believe what's going on? It's just unbelievable. So Hamas are still, we're waiting for them to decide if they're going to go ahead with this hostage release, and it's in their hands. But the world doesn't really, it's because it's Jewish lives. Maybe Jewish lives don't really matter. Who knows? But it matters to us, and it matters to all of Am Yisrael. And I had a very, very sad call from a very close colleague of mine in London, who's dedicated, her and her husband have dedicated their lives to helping the dental fraternity in England and in South Africa. And she is so disillusioned. She said the anti-Semitism in England is just outrageous, and all the work that she did in South Africa, where did it get us? Where did it help us? And then she sent me a WhatsApp of a policeman, a metropolitan policeman. On his uniform is a Palestinian flag. On the uniform of a metropolitan policeman, active policeman doing active duty with a Palestinian flag on his uniform. So Rav, that's it. It's quite unbelievable what's going on. But we have to stay strong. And what's so important is that we have to be unified. And this event that we held in Renana was the most unbelievable amount of unity amongst the South Africans living in Renana. And people were like so overwhelmed by the tremendous support that we have from the South African Jewish community. Message were read out from Kringle, from Zev Kringle, and from the head of the Jewish Board of Deputies. And it was an amazing event. And you can all see it on YouTube. I posted it on YouTube. And you'll be very impressed, because if we stand united, we definitely will win.
Be'ezrat Hashem.
Be'ezrat Hashem.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Les, for all the update. Like always, very interesting. Thank you, Dr. Les. Rabotai, as I mentioned earlier this afternoon, that the subject of the show is going to be mermaid. We all heard the concept of a mermaid. If there is such a thing, what is the Torah think about it? And if there is such a thing, what kind of an animal is it? Be'ezrat Hashem, we're going to try to tackle all of that through what Hazal tell us in Torah Shebichtav. Torah Shebichtav is the 5 books of Moses. Torah Shebe'al Peh, it's the Gemarot, Mishnayot, and all what Hazal, all different places in Hazal. So Be'ezrat Hashem, נעשה ונצליח, והשם עלינו ברחמיו ירוויח. I would like to dedicate the show in a soul of אסתר קדם בת קציה, מרדכי בן רחמה, תמר בת זהבה איתן, בן קרן ואבישי נאה, מלכה רג'ינה בת ג'ויה, יעקב סלומון, בן פרחה, נשמתם תהיה צרורה בצור החיים. ולרפואת ליאורה בת מרים, מנשה נג'י בן פרחה, הרב משה בן ביבתיה, הרב משה בן דבורה, הרב שלמה יהודה בן דליה, הרב אברהם בן מרינה, דבורה בת אסתר, חפצי בת שרה אמנו, שי נקלה בת חנה, מרדכי דוד בן לאה, יהודה הלל בן שולמית לאה, חיים נחום בן פסח רזה הכהן, ברוך בן שרה חיינה, אהובה קדן בת טלי אסתר, לאה בת רחל, פסח יצחק בן לאה, ואיילה עדן בת רבקה. Rabotai, and כל חולי עמו בית ישראל, and all of the Jewish people that need a quick רפואה שלמה, all the soldiers that need רפואה שלמה, all the members of the Israeli Defense Fund and all the Jews all over the world that need refuah shlema, we're going to dedicate the show. So as we mentioned, the subject of the show is a mermaid. And it's a very strange concept if you speak about mermaid, because we don't have any proof that anyone saw a mermaid. The only thing that we saw a mermaid is on a cartoon. But there is an interesting question that many people ask for many years. Is that concept of a mermaid, does it exist today? There is such an animal that called a mermaid, that the top part of the body is a part of a human being, and the bottom part is a fish. There is such thing? And today, Be'ezrat Hashem, we're going to try to tackle it, like I say, through the Torah Shebichtav and Torah Sheba'al Peh. I would like to start with a verse that the Torah tells us in Sefer Vayikra, Parashat Shmini, in chapter 11, verse 10. And from that, we're going to try to understand if there is such thing, and what is the Torah speak about. So let's see what the Torah speak about. I'm going to speak about the verse that the Torah tells us about all the fish that exist, that the Torah tells us which fish is kosher, which fish is not kosher. But in verse 10, the Torah tells us two words that can help us to understand if there is such an animal or not. And in verse 10, chapter 11, Sefer Vayikra, Parashat Shmini, the Torah tells us like this: V'kol asher en lo snapir ukaskeset bayamim ubanhalim mikol sheretz hamayim umikol nefesh hahaya asher bamayim sheketz hem lachem. Bechavod, Jeffrey.
And everything that does not have fins and scales in the seas and in the streams, from all that teems in the water, and from all living creatures in the water, they are an abomination to you.
Okay. So the Torah tells us, if we take the pshat of the pasuk, Rabbi, let's look at the pshat first to understand that every fish that doesn't have fin and scale, it's a non-kosher fish. Until here, we understand. Come Hazal and explain to us the key words, what it says, umikol nefesh hahaya, the living animal. What it means, the living animal? The living animal that there is inside the sea. Until here, that's what the Torah tells us. There is a midrash that's called Torat Kohanim. Torat Kohanim is a midrash halacha, a midrash of halacha on Sefer Vayikra. In Aramaic, they call it Sifra or Sifri. Okay, that is name. And he said, to understand if the Torah speak about such thing that call a mermaid, you know where you can find it? Look what it said. Mikol nefesh haya asher bamayim. From all the living animal in the water. Okay, what does it mean? Come to tell us the Midrash in chapter 3, verse 7. Hazal say, nefesh haya, the word nefesh haya, a living animal, come to tell us to add up, include the silonit. What is a silonit? What it means, silonit? Now we needed the Rambam. The Rambam in his commentary, and I have it here in front of me, the Rambam that I'm going to speak is the Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman. The Rambam, not the Rambam, the great eagle, the Rambam. He came later. Although that he also was a doctor, he also born in Spain. The difference between them was 54 years. Okay, the Rambam lived in Cordova, the great eagle. Okay, while the Ramban lived he born in Catalonia, in Spain. He born 830 years ago. And in his commentary on a Torah, on a word nefesh haya, he come to tell us something very interesting. He say, lerabot et asilonit. You know what is silonit? Listen what he said. Shezo hayat yam, nefesh ben asironit. Now we're starting to understand a bit more. It's an animal, okay, of the sea. It's a soul of the ben of the sironit. What does it mean? It means that there is an animal already that have a soul. Oh, now we're starting to get somewhere. The Ravad that was the first from the Rishonim. Okay, he lived in 12th century. Okay, he had a Shehasironit or Asilonit. They give a different name. He haya. It's an animal. Shehetzia Adam vehetzia dag. That means he said that the Sironit or the Sironit or the Silonit, depends how you want to call it. It's an animal. It's an animal that the half part of the body is like a human being. Vehetzia dag. And the other part is like a fish. He doesn't explain yet nothing. But look what he said. Umenagenet ka'adam. And she sings like a human being. What does it mean? We'll see later on. Until here, that's the commentary of Torah Shebichtav. The Torah Shebe'al Peh, I have the Gemara here, Rabotai, the Gemara in Masechet Brachot, in page 8, folio 1, right in the top. Hazal tell us like this. Look what Hazal said. Hadolfinim, parim uravim kibnei adam. Okay? The dolphin, normal dolphin, they multiply and they're breeding like a human being. That's what Hazal in the Gemara said. Let's look a bit more. Hazal tell us in the Gemara. My dolphin. Hazal in the Gemara asks, what is a dolphin? Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Bnei Yama. Rabbi Yehuda said, the children of the sea. Okay? Bnei Yama, Kol shebeitzav mibahutz molid. Outside he can give a birth. Okay. V'kol shemibefnim, whatever his testicle in the inside, he actually doesn't give a birth. He actually metil beitzim. He bring in eggs. He lay eggs. Okay? Until here, the Gemara. Come to Rashi HaKadosh. Rashi HaKadosh that we know, Rabbi Shlomo Yitzhaki. Rabbi Shlomo Yitzhaki, born in the city of Troa 984 years ago. In his commentary on the Gemara, on this specific Gemara, he said like this. He take the word that there it's said in the Hazal say in the Gemara. Hazal say that he said Bnei Yama. What it mean Bnei Yama? On a word Bnei Yama, Rashi HaKadosh say like this. Dagim yesh bayam. Fish there is in the sea. Shehetziam tzurat Adam. Vehetziam tzurat dag. That means Hazal tell us something very interesting. Rashi explained to us. There is fish in the sea that a half of the body is like a human being. The same like the Ra'avad. Okay? And the other part of the body, it looks like a fish. That's what so far we understand what it's called the mermaid. But we have to understand how is those mermaid get created, if there is such a thing. But from what we understand, there is, because Hazal tell us that there is dagim bayam, dagim yesh bayam, there is fish on the sea, that the half part of the body is like a human being, and the other part of the body is like a fish. So there is mermaid. Already the Torah is speaking about it from the day of the creation. And Hazal in a Gemara that's been written 2,500 years ago explained to us. But now come Rashi HaKadosh and say something more interesting. Rabotai, listen to that. Rashi HaKadosh asks, how is those mermaid, that we call it mermaid, been created? Did you ever ask yourself that very valid question? Say Hazal, very interesting. Hazal say like this, and I'm going to bring, when I say Hazal, I'm going to bring Rashi HaKadosh. Rashi HaKadosh tell us something very interesting. Hadolfinim, the dolphin, like we read earlier, you remember at the beginning, right in the top, right at the beginning of the Gemara Masechet Bechorot, page 8, folio 1. Hazal say, Hadolfinim parim verabim ki bnei adam, that they multiply like a human being. If Hazal tell us that they multiply like a human being, there is a secret behind it. Say Rashi HaKadosh, something very interesting. Rabotai, focus what I'm saying, okay? Because we're basically going to start diving. Okay, we're going to do a free diving. She'im ba'adam alehem mit'abrot hemano ve'az noladim b'nei yama. What does it mean? Rashi say that if a human being, not a normal human being, if a human being have a physical relationship with a female dolphin, she fall pregnant, and then those kind of animal that call mermaid coming to the world. Do you hear that? Why Dafka in Sefer Bereshit, Hazal mentioned to us at the beginning, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created everything, the Torah speak about the sea and the animal and the fish. Hazal tell us that in the time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought the flood to the world, Lo Alenu, people sin with animal. People make horrendous stuff in the world. The Tosfot. You all hear about the Tosfot. What is a Tosfot? We always hear Tosfot, Tosfot, Tosfot. What is Tosfot? Tosfot is a commentary that's been written by 44 great Gedolim, amongst them that Rabbanei Tzarfat, the rabbi from Tzarfat, and mainly from Europe, okay? 40 great Talmidim that wrote commentary on the Talmud, okay? And they call it the Tosfot, okay? And in the Tosfot, he explained, Shadolfinim parim urabim. What it means, parim urabim? Hazal say that the dolphin is very similar to a human being. They bring in their kids and they bring them up and they deliver their kids exactly like a human being. That means that a dolphin is exactly like a human being. He breed and he bring up his kids very similar to his kids, not like any other animal. Hazal in a different place in a Gemara, just for general knowledge for you to understand, Hazal said that every animal, that if a man have a relationship with the animal, physical relationship, that animal will die after 12 months. The difference is if a person, if a human being, have a physical relationship with a female dolphin. She can fall pregnant. And the hidush here is that the dolphin, not only that can fall pregnant, it can bring the mermaid. That's how the mermaid was created. But Hazal tell us something very interesting in a Gemara. But the opposite cannot happen. That means if a male animal, lo alenu, it's sickening, have a relationship with a woman, she can't fall pregnant. So we see from here something very interesting. Hazal tell us that from all the animals that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created, there's an animal that called the dolphin, that we know, we see it. If a male, a human being, have a relationship with that animal have a good chance to fall pregnant, and then what's going to come from it is the mermaid. Let's stop here before we're going to continue. So we learn from here, from what Hazal telling us, that there is an animal that called a mermaid. Not only that there is a mermaid that there is an animal that called a mermaid, Hazal knew about it already 2,500 years ago, they tell us in a Gemara. The commentaries on the Torah already tell us that the Torah tell us that there is such an animal. Where do you learn that? You learn that in Sefer Vayikra, that it's a nefesh haya, a living animal, or a living soul of an animal, let's call it, the right words. What do you learn from here? That the mermaid does exist. Nachon, that today we don't see it. And now we're going to get to the next part of the shi'ur. What kind of an animal is the mermaid? So I'm going to start with the Gaon Hida. Gaon Hida, Rabbi Chaim Yosef David Ozulai, he born in Jerusalem 300 years ago. The Gaon Hida traveled almost all over the world. The Gaon Hida wrote many books. And one of his books that called Midbar Kedemot, in his book Midbar Kedemot, in chapter 4, verse 13, listen what he said. Dag yesh bayam. There is a fish in the sea. Shekorim sirona. He called it a sirona. What is it? Mehitzio ulemala. That means from the hip up to his head. Kidmutisha. He looked like a woman, like a virgin woman. Umehitzio ulemata, from the hip to the button, listen what he said, ketavnit dag, in the shape of a fish. Listen what he's telling us. Umakom mishkana, where that fish, you can find it. Bashlaim, in the rocks in the sea. Ubimkomot mesukanim bayam, in a very dangerous place in the sea. What it means, very dangerous place in the sea? About that, let me explain. All the sea is dangerous, but there are certain places in the sea that there is more chance that if a ship get to it, it's gonna get crushed. You know, in a sea, sometimes if you're not a good captain or you're not a good navigator, can get to a place that is a lot of rocks. And if the sea hit a rock, that's the end of the ship. It's gonna sink. And dafka on those dangerous places, you're going to find the mermaid. Where there is rocks and where there is dangerous places. That means that today, the reason that we don't hear about them, we don't see them, because the ship avoid all of those dangerous places on the sea. Continue the Gaon Hida. Listen what he said. And he teaches us what is kind of an animal, the mermaid. Umide over, איזה ספינה, And when a ship gonna pass during that area, dangerous area, תתחיל לשורר בקול נעים. She's gonna start singing with a beautiful voice. She have a beautiful voice. What do we learn? That the mermaid have a beautiful voice. הרבה, she's gonna sing for a long time. She have a beautiful voice. She's gonna sing for a long time, הרבה. עד כי תפיל חבלי שינה על כל אנשי האונייה. Until the member or the crew of the ship gonna fall asleep. She have such a nice, beautiful voice that when people listen to her, they can fall asleep from that beautiful voice. And then, ואחר כך, נכנסת לתוכה, and then she's gonna climb into that boat, to that ship. והורגת ואוכלת יושביה. She will kill and she will eat them alive. That means a mermaid, it's not what we see in a cartoon. A mermaid is a predator's animal that actually hunts. There's a difference between a shark and a mermaid. A mermaid is a hunter, but it's a predator's hunter that uses her voice to kill people. It's a predator. There is another source, and listen to that. Harav Binyamin Mosifa. Harav Binyamin Mosifa, born in Spain, he born around 417 years ago. He was obviously a rabbi, a great scholar rabbi, but he was a doctor. And he was the personal doctor of Christian IV. Who was Christian IV? Christian IV was the king of, what do you call it? Of Denmark. He was the king of Denmark, Christian IV. And wherever Christian IV used to travel, he used to take with him, obviously, Rabbi Binyamin Mosifa. So wherever they used to go, he used to travel with them. And obviously, 400 years ago, the only way to travel from place to place is on boat, on a ship. And Rabbi Binyamin Mosifa wrote a book. He wrote Meisaf Ha'erech. Meisaf Ha'erech. That's the name of the book. And there he wrote about all of his journey, all of his experience. He wrote a chapter about, it's called the Sironi. Sironi, it's mean the mermaid. And listen what he said. And he bring in a question. Sironi, mai, what is that animal that we call it Sironi? Sironi, Bnei Yama. The Gemara call it Bnei Yama. Bnei Yama, that means the children of the sea. Okay? What is it? Listen what he said. Shehi min hayat yam. It's kind of an animal that live on a sea. Mehetzia ulemala isha. From the hip to the top, it look like a woman. Umehetzia lemata. From the hip bottom, it look like a fish. He continue and say, and he said, Shebizmanenu, in our time, he's talking about close to 400 years ago, 380 years ago at least. He said, Ra'ua hasar ve'asapanim. That means the king of Denmark, okay, Christian IV, and the sailor, so that kind of an animal, Beyam Malchut Norvegia, on a sea of Norway, in a very cold water, okay? And he continues and says, Ra'ua Bayam Bemalchut Norvegia, Kehom Hayom, in the heat of the day, Yoshevet al Sirton, she was sitting on a rock, like it's drawing in a cartoon. ובשומעת קול, and when she heard the voice of the ships, the sailors, she heard the people screaming, because obviously when they saw it, they start to say, special animal. צללה מיד בתוך הים. She dived straight into the sea and we didn't see anymore. Say Rabbi Benjamin Mosifa, that there is kind of an animal that's called a mermaid. And Christian IV, the king of Denmark, he saw it. And the sailor on a ship that he was with him. So we have a proof. We see from here that say the Hida, Gaon Hida, Rabbi Binyamin Mosifia, bringing us two sources about the animal. They explain who she is. There is a book that's called Chel Olam, Chel Olam, The Shadow of the World, in volume 2, in chapter 10. He said something very interesting. Listen to that. V'yesh dagim, there is fish, asher rosham gufam pnehem v'shadehem kidmut betula. There is a fish that the head, the body, their face, their chest, it's in the image of a virgin. I'm translating word to word what it means, virgin, a woman. ומשוררים בנעימות, and they sing beautifully, very beautiful. ונקרא שירונה, and her name is Sirona. Also, the Yalkut Shimoni is a midrash that's been written by Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon, he's from Frankfurt, from the city of Frankfurt, Rabbi Shimon Ashkenazi. On Sefer Bereshit, on a book of Bereshit and a commentary on Sefer Bereshit, we bring about that animal that's called a mermaid. The Ya'abetz, don't know how many of you know the Ya'abetz, Rabbi Yaakov Emden. Rabbi Yaakov Emden. Remember Norman Emden? Norman Emden told me that he's from the dynasty of the Ya'abetz. Once I studied with Norman Emden a special book that he wanted me to study with him. And he said to me, Rabbi, I want to tell you, you know the Ya'abetz? I said, I heard about him. I don't know him, but I heard about him. He said, I'm from his family. I'm from his dynasty. So that's Norman Mendel that we all know. And he said that the Ya'abetz is from, that he's from his lineage. And the Ya'abetz, bringing in his commentary, in his book, that there is an animal in the sea. Okay, again, they call it an animal or fish. Okay, some people call it fish, some people call it an animal, okay, that live in the sea. And that animal is a half human being and a half fish. That means that the top part from the hip to the top is a human being. From the hip to the bottom, it looks exactly like a fish. What do we learn from here? Let's stop here again before we're going to do summarize, and actually let's summarize. We learn number one, that the word mermaid, okay, this kind of animal does exist. Hazal already speaking about it in a Gemara 2,500 years ago. The Torah hinting to us that there is such thing. We learn it in Sefer Bereshit, and then when the Torah speak about the kosher and the non-kosher animal in Parashat Shmini in Sefer Vayikra, what we read, what Hazal explained in the Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, say Mikol nefesh haya. That means Mikol, all the living animal or the living soul of the animal. Say the Rambam that you're learning that there is what we call it an animal that live in the sea that called Sironai. Sironai It's Sironit. Now we're going to get to all the different names that the mermaid had. But before that, you will learn from here, number one, that there is what we call an animal that's called a mermaid. The Torah shebechtav, Torah shebe'al peh. Chazal tell us another interesting thing about the mermaid. The commentary tell us that the mermaid have a beautiful voice. Not for nothing she have a beautiful voice, because a mermaid is a hunting animal. Hunting animal, or hunting fish, whatever you want to call it. It's a predator's hunting fish. A mermaid. Not many people know about it. What does it mean? The Torah tell us that something very interesting. The Torah tell us that there is a fish on a sea that it's called a mermaid, okay? But the Torah doesn't call it a mermaid. They call it Sironi, Sirona, Bnei Yama. We'll see now, just now, I'm going to get to all the different names, how Chazal call it, and what Chazal and the Gemara call it. And that animal, or that fish, number one, it's a mix of a human being and a fish. Rashi HaKadosh and the Gemara, and the Tosfot and the Gemara, in Masechet Bechorot, page 8.1, folio 1, explain how this kind of a fish, a predator's fish, a hunting fish, been created. Now, let's stop for a second. Rashi HaKadosh, born 984 years ago. 984 years ago. The Gemara been written around 2,500 years ago. I don't think that Chazal in that time had a submarine. They didn't have all of those special instruments to check where they are, what they are. So how did they knew all of it? Chazal tell us something very interesting. Lekamida, that means there is nothing that not been written in our Holy Torah. There is nothing that there is not mentioned in our Holy Torah. What does it mean? Chazal already knew about what today they can't discover, they can't see, about the mermaid. And not only that, Chazal know how she been created, what kind of a fish or animal is that mermaid, where she lived, okay, where she hide, and what kind of a water, what condition, and how she hunt. Not only that she have a beautiful voice. Let's continue. Chazal tell us that this kind of animal that we call it a mermaid, okay? Chazal give it a different name. In Hebrew, first of all, in Hebrew they call it Batayam, the daughter of the sea. That's the Hebrew name, in Hebrew, New Hebrew. But in different interpretation in Jewish religion, they call it Sirona, Silonit, Sironit, Sirona, and Chazal call it Bnei Yama. That means the children of the sea. What is Chazal? And the Gemara call it Bnei Yama, the children of the sea. So we have to understand what we say at the beginning of the She'ur. We say that Chazal in the Gemara, in Masechet Bechorot, in page 8, folio 1, right at the beginning of the page, Chazal tell us, Hadolfinim, Parim urabim ki bnei Adam. That means the dolphin multiply and breed like a human being. What it means human being? But Hazal tell us that there is a fish or animal is like a human being in the sea. And that's the secret behind it. Bnei Yama. Bnei Yama, the children of the fish. Why Dafka children? The children of the sea. Why Dafka the children? To teach you what Rashi tried to explain to us. Rashi said that he explained what does it mean, the Sionit? How do they breed? How do they come? Hazal say kebnei Yama. That Hazal say הדולפינים פרים מורבים כבני אדם, like a human being. That means that they get pregnant exactly like a human being. If a human being, have a relationship with a female dolphin, that's how they come to the world. And now we can understand what Hazal call it, Bnei Yama, the children of the sea, because it's a half human being and a half fish. So sometimes when we read the Gemarot, or when we read the Torah Shebechtav, we have to understand what's hiding behind every word. Sometimes we say Bnei Yama, and the commentary will say it's a kind of a fish, and we continue. But go deeper, understand what's happening. Rashi HaKadosh and the Tosfot already telling us close to 900 years ago, more, 930 years, 950, 900, close to 950, 960 years ago, explain to us what kind of an animal is a mermaid and how they come to the world. Rashi didn't have submarine, like I mentioned earlier, didn't have all of those sonar and things to check. If the Torah tell us, we have to believe. If Hazal tell us, we have to believe. That's mean that the idea that we see on a cartoon, on movies, on a TV, that mermaid, that there they show you a sweet, lovey-dovey fish. But in reality, the mermaid, you don't want to meet with her. It's a hunting fish. It's a hunting predator. That how did she hunt? How does she kill? With a beautiful voice that she has. That means that she sings so beautifully, and that sound that she singing, or she, whatever you want to call it, put people to sleep. She's singing, actually, because Hazal said, Shara. That means that she sings, mezameret. She put you to sleep, and then she climbed into the boat, and ochelet vetorefet. That means that she eats, and she like a predator. אוכלת את יושביה, טורפת את יושבי אותה אונייה. That she hunts and she predators those, she killed those that on a ship with a beautiful voice. So Rabotai, if you ever get to that subject of mermaid, and people will ask you, there is a mermaid? So you tell them, yes, our Holy Torah already told us about it. It's written in our Holy Torah. Kadosh Baruch Hu revealed that to us. Where is it? In Sefer, remember, Vayikra, Parashat Shmini, when the Torah tells us about the non-kosher animal and the kosher animal. And when it says about the non-kosher animal, what is a non-kosher animal? The Torah tells us that doesn't have fin and doesn't have scale. But there the Torah adding up, like by the way, nefesh hachaya, umikol nefesh hachaya, from all the soul of the animal. What soul of the animal? referring to the mermaid. If that's not enough, tell us that our sages knew about it 2,500 years ago, and they already mention it in our Gemarot, in our oral Torah. Rabotai, I hope that you enjoyed the show. I've done that show, a matter of fact, 7 years ago, not in that depth, not in such a depth, but I've done this show 7 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Today I had up more things, more information, and we learn from here that even how they've been created, well, it's something that go against all the odds. What I mean by it, Rabotai. Hazal tell us, if a human being, okay, have a physical relation with any other animal except the dolphin, the female dolphin, Hazal tell us that that animal will die after 12 months. But if you have a physical relationship with a female animal, she can fall pregnant, and that's where the mermaid comes. Isn't that amazing? Look what our Torah knew 2,500 years ago. There's a Hazal in our oral Torah. Not only that, our Torah reveal it to us if we know how to study it. In our holy Torah that we receive on Mount Sinai. Isn't that amazing? Rabotai, I hope that you enjoyed the show. I hope that it's interesting you. If you have any question regarding the subject, I will try to answer if I can. Bechavod, any question? No question. No question? Okay, good. Okay, Rabotai. So, first of all, I would like to wish all of you a beautiful Shavua Tov, a good week to all of you. Be'ezrat Hashem, a week that we can hear good news, a week that, Be'ezrat Hashem, that we'll see our brothers and sisters that been kidnapped, been released, Be'ezrat Hashem, speedily in our days, that we merit that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will send Mashiach Tzidkenu and will say enough to all our problem. Will say Maspik L'kol Tzarotenu. Thank you for joining us, Rabotai. Have a good night and have a beautiful week ahead. Have a good night. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night, everyone.